And the common strategy in both personal relationship, I would say, is active listening. We underestimate how it is important to listen actively to what our partner is saying, the business partner or whatever in relationships. Not only listening to respond, but listening to understand where the person is coming from, listening to understand the person's point of view. It's so important. Usually, Naveen, we are quick to waiting for us, the person to finish speaking, for us to respond. However, there's a need for us to actually listen to understand what the person is saying clearly and where the person is coming from, what the person's point of view is. When you're able to understand that, our responses are more measured and our responses are able to meet where the person is coming from. So I think active listening goes both ways in business and personal relationships, making them understand the consequences, right, of not being able to communicate in dialogue. Because the more an issue gets dragged, the more resources are spent, the more impact it's going to have on your projects or going to have on your relationship. So there are always consequences when we delay the resolution of this. There's always consequences. Highlighting that the longer this thing is taken, this issue is not resolved, the more consequences you're going to face down the line. So the earlier you communicate, the earlier you come together for a compromise, the better. So highlighting the consequences will help them to be able to come to a table to discuss. And I think thirdly, I would say neutral mediation, making sure a party that has no affiliation with either party will be able to come and sit down and help to mediate the impasse. Getting a neutral mediator is so important. No one that has any kind of bias towards either party, whether assume there should be the person should be as neutral, the mediator should be as neutral for either party to feel comfortable to making sure that they'll be able to come together and sit in the negotiating end. So I think these are some of the things that will help us to, when there's two conflicting parties that don't want to compromise, these are some of the steps you can take. Help them to come together and start to dialogue and helping to resolve the dispute.
Folks, you have tuned into TGV and hearty welcome to Guiding Voice podcast series, the world's only quadrilingual podcast at this moment of recording, and we are trying to embark into multiple languages as we speak, and here we embark on transformative conversations for a better future, and we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I am your host Naveen Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in. So folks, we are joined by Samuel Bentil, and he's a seasoned professional with over 16 years of experience in the engineering and construction industry, and he specializes in forensic construction claims and dispute resolution, and he has successfully navigated complex projects across multiple sectors including mining, oil and gas, and also public infrastructure. He is also an author, and his upcoming book is focused on preventing construction disputes through collaboration. And currently he serves as a senior director at Ankura, helping businesses thrive by mitigating risk and fostering effective communication. And today we are going to dive into an interesting topic, which is about dispute resolution in business and also personal relationships. But before we get into the topic, here is an exciting twist. Let us tickle our guest brain. So Samuel, get ready for a rapid fire round of random words. I'll mention a few, and I would love to hear the first thing that comes to your mind in response without thinking much. If you're ready, let's get started.
Here we go.
Alright, here comes the first word. Curiosity.
Cats.
Invention.
Aeroplane.
Future.
AI.
Universe.
Flat Earth.
Role model.
My father.
Collaboration.
The way to go.
Leadership.
Miles Monroe.
Patience.
A virtue.
Risk.
Everywhere.
Trust.
Very important.
And the last word is negotiation.
You cannot do without it.
I loved your responses, so spot on, and thank you so much for participating in the first rapid fire round. There is one more rapid fire round toward the end of the episode, so stay tuned. And Samuel, let's get the ball rolling. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really great. Everything is going nice. I'm so excited to join you on your show this morning from British Columbia.
Oh wow! Feeling is mutual, and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice. Let's begin with your success mantra. So please share with our audience the top 3 things that have contributed to your success so far.
Thank you, Naveen. The top 3 things I'll say is great mentorship. I've had great mentorship throughout my career, right from home, from my dad, through my business, schooling, and my business. To have great bosses as I was growing up in my work and mentorship. I think that has been the greatest contribution. So I had had good leaders to follow in my professional career, and they guided me, and I look up to them, and it's really been. So I think great mentorship is my number one. And second, I would say continuous learning. And I never stop learning. Every time I'm open up to new ideas, interested in researching other fields and seeing how my field in engineering and construction connects with other fields, right? In psychology, and I'm open to all fields and see how they connect with each other. So I've always been open, asking questions everywhere I go, and I'm absorbing as much information as I can. And finally, I think resilience and adaptability. I always make sure that I'll be able to, every situation that I'm in, I'll adjust to that situation and make the best out of it. Someone who hardly says that, oh, I won't fit here. I always find a way to fit in every situation I am, in any circumstances. So it gives me the opportunity, it gives me so many opportunities because of this adaptability and resilience. So I think these three are my top three things that have contributed my success so far.
Awesome. Fitting into situation is not that easy, and looks like you are adaptable, and most importantly, resilience also plays a critical role there. And Samuel, who is your guiding voice?
My guiding voice, I'll say the Holy Spirit. I have a strong faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and my guiding voice is the Holy Spirit. My faith is so important to who I am today and who I am. So that is what I've been. Spiritual life is so important, and from childhood up to this time, all the challenges, I've always made sure that I stay close to my God, and and finally I will say my wife. My counsel of my wife has been so important also to me, and assisting me to keep myself on track. So that's what I'll say are my guiding voices.
Wonderful. I loved that you mentioned about your wife, because most of us ignore the fact that our spouses support us a lot, and without their support we cannot move forward at all.
Exactly. So critical.
Awesome. I love it. And let's move to the topic. So what are the common triggers of disputes in both businesses and also personal relationships, and can they be avoided?
I think the top three, I would say, triggers. Some of the common triggers I would say is unmet expectations. I think when we are going to relationships, or we are going to business relationships or personal relationships, we all have different expectations of our partners or business partners or relationships, and sometimes those expectations are not grounded on facts, are not based on all the information we have. We have perceptions, and therefore we have different expectations, and it's not everything that we communicate what our expectations are. So when we enter in a relationship, a business relationship, and we find out that we are not getting what we had assumed or we have imagined, then it becomes an issue of a dispute. And so therefore, unmet expectations is one of the key things that causes a dispute. And one of the things that can prevent that is ensuring that the expectations are clear from the beginning, is grounded on facts or the knowledge available at a time. When we do that, then we ensure that we're on the same level and we are not assuming so many things, and we are communicating our expectation clearly. I think the second thing that I will say is miscommunication. We have different communication styles, and it's important that there's always a two-way communication. We're able to understand what our partners needs. We're also able to understand what our needs are, and be able to two-way communication. Send out the information and make sure that you get feedback. Feedback is also important for you to make sure that having received and heard and understood in a manner in which that we estimated. So therefore, it's important to have communication as often as possible, regular updates, be able to make sure that we're on track, keeping our partners informed of what we are doing in business relationship, in projects, making sure that there are regular communication updates on the status of the project and how things are going. That will make sure we are all on the same level, and when an issue comes up, we can be able to solve it quickly, because if it prolongs, then it causes an issue down the line. So the earlier the issue is seen and communicated, the better. Otherwise, later it becomes a bigger issue than it originally was. I think finally, always there's scarcity of resources everywhere. Nobody has enough to do all our project or have all the resources available to pour at any point. There's always time, resource constraints, whether in relationships, in our home, in the family. There's always resources to be managed, and usually the resource management always sometimes brings a bit of conflict, because someone has high expectations that we're supposed to use this here, and I need to do this more than this. Usually that can become an issue. So it's important for us to establish a structured process where the utilization of resources managed very well. There's a knowledge on each party on each side how the resources can be best used. If there's a change, let us communicate the change, and let there be a process established on how we manage the change in terms of resource utilization. So those are all the three things that that common causes of dispute, and that's how we can resolve them.
Yeah. So unmet expectations, and then miscommunication, and the third one is scarcity of resources, so which is resource constraints. Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
And Samuel, let's move forward to the next one. So can you share a strategy strategy, okay, that works well in both business and personal settings when addressing conflicts?
And the common strategy in both personal relationship, I would say, is active listening. We underestimate how it is important to listen actively to what our partner is saying, the business partner or whatever in relationships. Not only listening to respond, but listening to understand where the person is coming from, listening to understand the person's point of view. It's so important. Usually, Navid, we are quick to waiting for us, the person to finish speaking, for us to respond. However, there's a need for us to actually listen to understand what the person is saying clearly and where the person is coming from, where the person's point of view is. When you're able to understand that, our responses are more measured and our responses are able to meet where the person is coming from. So I think active listening goes both ways in business and personal relationships.
Wow, you nailed it, and I loved it. Okay, so Samuel, let us double click on the communication part, right? So what role does this effective communication play in dispute resolution, and how can leaders ensure clarity, especially in high pressure situations?
Right. Effective communication, nothing, you cannot underestimate how critical it is in dispute resolution, because disputes usually occur in one issue regarding a communication other. You cannot do away with having effective communication. And I think the first thing about handling this is being clear and concise from the beginning, making sure your communication with your party is as concise and is as clear as possible. There are not ambiguities in your communication with the other party, because maybe you're having a negotiation and it ends in negotiation. You don't want to be ambiguous in your statement and not speak clearly, and making sure that the partner, the opposing party or whoever you're having dispute with, will have double idea about what you're saying. So being clear and concise from the get-go will ensure that your communication is effective. Secondly, I mentioned this before, having regular updates, making sure that the other party is abreast with the state on what is going on. Don't leave your partner in the dark. Let me ensure that they also are on part and understand where you are in the project, what you are doing. That ensures that you all have the same communication and that there's no information lacking. Because if the partner has an input to what you are doing, and when they get the right information from you, then they can contribute and also tell you their point of view before it becomes an issue. And finally, we have to encourage feedback when we are in this high intense, ensuring that we receive the feedback and understand whether our communication has been heard and understood in the way we intended it. So these are the three, I think, top that helps effective communication.
So one thing what I noticed in your responses is you're sticking to 3 points, 3 powerful points for everything, which is good one. Okay, and let's talk about the emotions. Okay, emotions again play an important role in our day-to-day communication and everything we do. So what are the key steps in your opinion, okay, which will help in managing emotions when resolving a personal or even a business dispute?
Yeah, and I think this is the issue on emotions, where understanding neuroscience, the new development in neuroscience and emotional intelligence really play a key role. In managing emotions, first is being self-aware ourselves, being self-aware of who we are, being self-aware of our tendencies, being aware of our own weaknesses and our strengths, and recognizing our own emotions, how we react in different situations. As is the first step, let us understand who we are, where we stand in terms of our emotions, in terms of conditions of different situations. When we are self-aware, then we want to empathize with the other party, making understanding also where they are coming from, and having empathy towards them, empathy towards their point and their state, and knowing that, understanding the conditions in which they are coming from. And that is the second stage of understanding, being able to control. You being aware first. Second, empathizing with the other party, empathizing with their partner, and understanding where they are coming from, the situation that is causing them to state why they are staying. Then the next step is to focus. Let us focus on the facts. Let us focus on the facts, and let us not dwell on things that are conjecture. Let us understand what the facts of the situation is. What is the fact of the situation? Let us make sure that what we are stating is based on what is reality, right? And finally, if we are not able to manage this situation, then let us seek a third party who will be able to assist us in resolving whatever impasse in an emotional situation. Let us find a third party who will be able to be neutral and sit and listen. Let us mediate and find a third party who will come and assist us in managing our communications and our emotions. So these are the steps that I will say in managing emotions when resolving personal conflicts.
Oh, wonderful. And now I'm super curious to learn from you about the most challenging dispute you have ever encountered, and what lessons did it teach you?
I think one of the challenging disputes that we, and as a dispute that almost lasted 8 years to resolve.
Wow.
Yeah, the main contractor and a subcontractor in a project, and after the end of the project, the subcontractor felt that they have spent so much money and so much resources on completing the project because they didn't have sufficient information from the main contractor to accurately plan the project and build the project. What they expected or what information that they received when they went on the site, they realized that it was not what they expected. It was more than what they expected. So they expected more cost and more resources in completing the project, and they had an amount of money that they felt that they have spent and that they wanted to recover from the main contractor, and the main contractor also felt that the information they gave was sufficient. Now, you will not believe this issue. The money was not even more than $5 million that the subcontractor was asking for the main contractor. However, they stood their grounds and they kept this issue going for years, meeting, trying to resolve. None of them, they took so much entrenched positions, and after 8 years, they actually spent more than $3 million in the dispute resolution process before finally they came to a settlement. Can you imagine, how entrenched positions can let you spend and waste money and resources on an issue that when you put down together and you understand, you're empathetic and know where someone is coming from, you will save yourself all these years and resources and time spent in trying to resolve. Just sticking with the fact and being empathetic to our other party would have solved this issue within a year or not. Even it shouldn't have gone even beyond a year, but 8 years to resolve less than a $5 million issue. It was one of the most was mind-boggling dispute that I felt professionally. That comes to mind.
Okay, got it. 8 years is not a small time actually. It is not a less time at all. And sometimes people get into that aggressive mode and they don't want to compromise. That might also result in prolonging this thing, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of personality clashes. Yeah, there was a lot of personality clashes. And,
right. Okay.
Tough situation.
Okay. And Samuel, in your experience, how does this proactive planning help avoid conflicts and disputes?
Proactive planning before we enter into an endeavor or a project is so important, because we're able to sit down and we review what we are undertaking. We're able to identify any potential issues. You can't identify all the potential issues. You can identify, but quite a fairly 75-80% of the issues that usually occur or that is likely to occur when you're undertaking a project. So it's really great for you to identify what are the things that we're expecting to meet, what are the challenges we're expecting to meet. It will be able to help you to formulate strategies that will help you to avoid conflict or dispute down the line. So effective planning and proactive planning helps us to identify potential issues down the line. Secondly, it helps us to establish clear expectations. Now we're able to plan, we know our resources, we know the time, we know the scope of what we're going to do. Therefore, we are able to understand the expectations that we need from either party to bring onto the table to be able to complete the project that we have on hand. So when we're able to plan clearly and go into detail, we are able to set clear expectations, because now we know what is going to take to get the work done. Then we make sure that the two parties are on the same shared goal to tackle the project to get it done, so that there will not be any differences. Also, regular monitoring is so important. When we're able to we're able to plan our project in advance. Proactive planning, we are then able to measure the progress, because we have made a plan. We know what we are going to, the milestones that we are supposed to meet. We know how much the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, what we are supposed to achieve to get to the end of the project. So now we have points on which we can be able to measure progress to know whether we are on track according to our plan or we are not on track. So proactive planning helps us to be able to monitor progress based on the plan and make adjustments as we go along. And I think finally, proactive planning helps us to have effective risk management. And it speaks to the first point, because now we know the potential issues that are likely to occur. We are able to make plans, plan our risk responses, assign the risk to some particular parties that when this risk occur, you are supposed to you assign the risk to the particular party that is best in a position to be able to respond to the risk. So it helps us to have effective risk planning And I think those are some of the importance of proactive planning, helping avoid disputes and helping avoid conflicts.
Because when it comes to risk management, right, if we can anticipate what is going to happen, we'll be better prepared and people can come to an agreement.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Now there is a unique situation where both parties refuse to compromise, right? So how do you manage those kind of situations?
It's just like the experience I told you about
8-year one, yeah.
Exactly. So we have to find a way to facilitate dialogue between the parties, because when they are not compromising, it usually means that there is not much communication between. There's almost a breakdown in communication between the parties. So now our priority is to be able to establish dialogue between the parties, bring the parties to the table for them to be able to get communication going. All goes upon communication. So establishing a very neutral environment, a very less adversarial environment, very relaxing environment to get the people to start to dialogue again is so important. When people are refusing to compromise, letting them having a free environment that they'll be able to sit down and start to dialogue again is so important. Secondly, making them understand the consequences, right, of not being able to communicate and dialogue, because the more an issue gets dragged, the more resources are spent, the more impact it's going to have on your projects or going to have on your relationship. So there are always consequences when we delay resolution of this. There's always consequences. Highlighting that the longer this thing is taken, this issue is not resolved, the more consequences you're going to face down the line. So the earlier you communicate, the earlier you come together for a compromise, the better. So highlighting the consequences will help them to be able to come to a table to discuss. And I think thirdly, I would say neutral mediation, making sure a party that has no affiliation with either party will be able to come and sit down and help to mediate the impasse.
Yeah.
Getting a neutral mediator is so important. No one that has any kind of bias towards either party, whether assume there should be the person should be as neutral, the mediator should be as neutral for either party to feel comfortable to making sure that they'll be able to come together and sit in negotiating. And so I think these are some of the things that will help us to, when there's two conflicting parties that don't want to compromise, these are some of the steps you can take, help them to to come together and start to dialogue and helping to resolve the dispute.
Amazing. And your experience speaks volumes about this one, and I think you have a great hold on this particular topic, and thank you for sharing amazing insights so far. And it's time for us to add some more spice and some more excitement to the episode.
Hello, I'm Steve Ahern, one of the judges of the Asia Podcast Awards. I'm interrupting this episode to let you know that you're listening to an award-winning podcast. This podcast won its category in the 2024 Podcast Awards, so you know you're listening to quality. Enjoy your listening experience, and congratulations to the team who created this award-winning podcast for you.
Okay, I think it's time for us. Yeah, second rapid fire round. Let's kick it off. And here comes my first bullet. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
It will say collaboration over conflict.
Wow, simple. Collaboration over conflicts. Amazing. And can you describe yourself in just one word?
I'll say resilient.
Resilient. Awesome. And what one word that defines success for you?
Growth.
And best book you have read this year?
The leaders speak last.
What's your go-to strategy for staying calm in a tough situation?
I recite my favorite Bible verse, Psalm 23.
What is a skill that everyone should master?
Active listening. Listen to the other party and ensuring that you know where they are coming from and what they are really saying so they can respond appropriately.
Love it. And what's more important, trust or communication?
Trust. Trust is the foundation of communication. Once there's trust, communication will be able to be facilitated.
Wow. And you have played it smart. Trust is the foundation for communication. You're touching both aspects. Okay. Here comes the last one for the second rapid fire round. What is the superpower you wish you had?
I would think healing broken hearts.
Love it. I loved your creative responses for the second rapid fire round, and let's flip back to the mainstream. So what advice would you give to someone who is trying to rebuild a damaged relationship after the conflict?
Right. Conflicts are always bound to happen in our lifetime, and whether in business, whether in personal relationships. And I think that one of the key things is being able to take a step back and understanding that coming to terms that this has happened. It's in the past, there's nothing we can do about it, right? And that when events happen in our lives, it's always an opportunity for growth. It's always an opportunity to get better. I think I mentioned growth and learning. Now, situations and conflicts always happen. There are always opportunity for us to learn and grow and get better. So when someone experiences particularly directly, understand issue, the conflict in that perspective, understanding that it has happened, you've got hurt, but it's an opportunity for you to grow and also mature, or to be able to move forward, right? And to be able to learn so that you don't repeat the same hurt in the future. So I think putting it in context in the beginning is so important, and having it in the perspective. And second thing, acknowledge that yes, you are hurt and another person is also hurt in the conflict, because it's always a two-way issue. Being able to acknowledge that yes, and accepting the role, because nothing we know in relationships, there's no party that is 100% right and 100% wrong. There's always a mixture of us having an issue, causing being a part of the issue that caused the conflict. So accepting our role, accept what we did, accept the role that we played in causing the conflict, and coming to terms with it, and apologizing sincerely, making sure that you have taken it out of your heart and you have spoken out and apologized unconditionally without any excuses, and going the person, find the person, if the person is available, you communicate and I'm very sorry for my role I played, and say I'm sorry. You don't know how much I'm sorry, how far it can go. It will leave, it's not only for the person to hear, but it relieves us our sorrow from the burden of the experience, for us to enable us to move forward from the experience. To be able to say I'm sorry is so without any reservations. It so helps us to move forward, and having an open communication if the opportunity is there, without person having open communication after that. I think these are the steps that can help someone who's trying to rebuild a damaged relationship.
Samuel, this has been amazing conversation, and I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and it was such a pleasure hosting you. And how is your experience being a guest on my show?
It was so much fun. It was so much fun. I didn't know what expectations were, and the rapid fire, I was thinking about it. I'm like, how am I going to get this? I survived it. So I'm really excited. I really enjoyed the show. No,
you just didn't survive. You thrived it. You did a wonderful job. All right. So
thank you.
Most welcome, and I wish you all the best on your book release. I look forward to hosting you again in future, and take care. And I wish you more power in terms of spreading positivity in the world.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Wish you success in your shows as well.
Thank you so much. Alright, so friends, that was our episode with Samuel Bentil. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. In case if you haven't already subscribed to our podcast, please subscribe from wherever you have tuned in. And also if you have enjoyed the conversation, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you are growing. Now, let's hop into the trivia segment, and today's trivia is about 2 lesser known and fun facts about great negotiations in the history. First is the Camp David Accords in 1978. During the intense negotiation between Egypt and Israel, President Jimmy Carter used handwritten personal notes to both Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin. This emotional appeal helped bridge gaps when talks nearly collapsed, showcasing the human touch in high-stakes diplomacy. Interesting, isn't it? And here comes my second fact. Treaty of Tordesillas, which is in 1494. Spain and Portugal resolved their dispute over New World territories by splitting the globe in half. And this agreement, brokered by the Pope, divided newly discovered lands outside Europe between them. But ironically, they did not realize just how large the lands were. Right? So those are the interesting things, and that's it from the trivia perspective. And folks, if you have any interesting topics or interesting stories related to negotiation and dispute resolution, I would love to hear from you. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, you can comment there, or if you found this episode on audio platforms or social media platforms, you can comment there as well. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. So folks, until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember, the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care. Love you all.